Truth is stranger than fiction. I've heard this saying before, but there are people in this world who do stupid things beyond imagination. I had quite an unusual experience. My name is Sarah. I met my boyfriend, David, through a mutual friend. After dating for a little over a year, it was somewhat of a natural progression that we ended up getting married. As we began our new life together, I moved into his apartment. Organizing our belongings, we were all set to submit our marriage registration. That was when I was suddenly struck with a fever. Diagnosed with the flu at the hospital, David said, "I'll go and submit the marriage registration," and I entrusted him with it. Hours later, I heard David return and a sweet female voice calling out, "David." I wondered if he'd bring another woman home because I was sick. But it wasn't a misunderstanding due to my fever. He returned home with his mother. His mother opened the door to our bedroom and asked, "Sarah? Aren't you going to come out and greet me?" Demanding greetings from a sick person? What kind of dictator is she? Pretending to be asleep, I was then subjected to another attack from his mother. She forcibly removed my blanket and exclaimed, "You're still in your pajamas." Well, that was because I was sick. "Get up and change at once." "You look disgraceful," she demanded, trying to pull me out of bed. "Please leave me alone. I have the flu and it's contagious." I blurted out in my fluster. Where was David? Then I heard the loud sound of the TV. He seemed to be watching a comedy show in the living room. He was laughing along with the audience. "David, your mother is attacking your wife here. You call yourself a wife? Unbelievable. Fine, if you're too sick to cook, I'll prepare David's meal. Be grateful, you useless fool," she shouted before storming out of the room. Her attitude towards someone who was sick in bed. She was just evil. "David, I'm making your dinner." "Okay." I actually heard you say that to Sarah. Exhausted by the parent-child conversation I overheard, I felt completely drained. If you heard, why didn't you stop her? Frustrated by his lack of intervention and his mother's continuous abuse towards me, my irritation with David grew. Unable to sleep peacefully, it took 5 days for my fever to subside. I should never have agreed to marry him. I was already missing my single life. After a 2-day rest period, I finally returned to work and let my boss know that I was married. Since we had no plans for a wedding ceremony, I only informed him and the HR department. Being somewhat of a loner at work, I only had one friend, Anna, who was working in HR. "Congratulations on your marriage. A week off for the honeymoon? I'm jealous." I could only sigh at Anna's teasing smile. I just fell ill with the flu and got tormented by my mother-in-law. What? That's hilariously tragic. I didn't find it funny at all. Subsequently, I received instructions from her. "It's been a week since you filed your marriage registration. You should be able to get some paperwork with your new name and residential address written on it. Go get it. Once that's done, please let me know so I can update all your details in our system." I listened to these instructions with a serious face. At that moment, all I could think was just getting a divorce. I never expected such a shocking turn of events. After work, I immediately headed to the city hall to request for the paperwork I was advised to get. What? Looking at the surname on the paperwork, I knew something wasn't right. It still had my maiden name printed on it. What does this mean? I quickly texted Anna. My name on the paperwork is still my maiden name. Why is that? She replied almost instantly. I don't think your marriage has been registered. Don't tell me. I thought I was married, but it was all in my head. I think you are right. Shocking, isn't it? Anna must have gotten irritated by our message exchange, because she called me. You haven't been scammed out of money, have you? No. The only thing I've lost is my freedom to relax and sleep. Just in case, make sure that you apply for an annulment of your marriage. Your husband might be a con artist. A con artist. The person I'd been with for more than a year, a con artist. That sounded extreme, but thinking about his evil mother, that could be possible. I took Anna's wise advice and applied for an annulment of my marriage. Aren't you shocked? Asked by Anna, who was still on the phone. I just stared blankly into space. Looked at objectively, being betrayed by your partner should be shocking. But having experienced the bullying by David's mother when I was sick, and also seen David's being a mommy's boy, I've just realized, surprisingly, I'm not in love with David any longer. Well, enduring the kind of treatment I got from David's mother wouldn't be good for me. If you're okay, that's good then. But what was going on with your boyfriend, I wonder? Indeed, I was curious about his intentions. There's got to be something going on. Not filing the marriage registration, something that would be found out about immediately. Just like you did today. That was true. David is 27 years old, having a decent job. Surely, he knew his lie would be revealed right away. There might be something more to the story, and he was actually committing marriage fraud? Maybe he was testing you? If you couldn't figure that out, that'd make you a perfect target for scammers. I was offended to be considered such a fool. I'm not going to forgive him for what he's done. Fueled by anger, I made a decision. I boasted to Anna, but what I actually managed to do was rather mundane. Just recording conversations. Watching myself record conversations between David and his mother, I felt like I was the one committing a crime. After about 3 days of trying, all I got was more of his mother's bullying towards me. And the conversations between the mama's boy and his mother. I lost interest before finding any solid evidence. I got bored. Being a detective's not an easy job. But I was unaware. That very day, after sending such a text message to Anna, an unexpected turn of events awaited me. At dinner, eating his mother's bland beef stew and enduring the usual verbal attacks from her. I must have looked dead inside. Seeing my mentally drained state, his mother looked at me with satisfaction and let out a chuckle. You look unhappy ever since you got married, Sarah. But you know, it's because you're not doing well as a wife, so I'm here to teach you. You need to understand and be grateful for that. I see. I couldn't even muster the energy to respond properly. What kind of answer was that? What a horrible woman you are. David. It's really good that she's not your wife after all. Wait, she knew I wasn't his wife? She was bullying me even though she knew I wasn't her daughter-in-law? Mom, that's... Oops, I let it slip. My bad. She said, fake coughing and looking at me. I'll tell you what. David and I had a plan. A plan for our happiness. What? Such an unexpected twist. I thought David was acting alone, but his mother was part of the fraud as well. Did they realize I was snooping around? What did she even mean by our happiness? Amused by this novel-like development, I listened. You seem unaware, so let me tell you. Your marriage registration was never filed. That means you and David are still strangers. Yes, I knew that. I felt bad, but I did it because Mom told me to. Before it was too late, we wanted to know if you were the right person for David. If you were no good, he could just have you bear his child and then leave you. That way, we wouldn't have to tarnish our family records, right? They wanted a child. Not my money? What exactly do you mean? The reason why we didn't file your marriage registration was that we were just testing you to see if you could be a good wife. What? Was that it? Could any novel have such a boring plot? That's just... my 3 days of effort, all for nothing. I dropped my eyes and walked to our bedroom. Packed in advance in case I needed to flee if my eavesdropping was discovered, I grabbed my bags. David, in a panic, came up to me. I never meant to hurt your feelings. It's okay. Goodbye. I said, looking down. What else could I say? Was I going out with a con artist? Sounded like a fiction movie. My parents were surprised when I suddenly returned home. When I told them what happened, they were speechless with their mouths agape. Since it was very late, they just told me to go to bed, treating me with great caution. As the next day was Sunday, I vented all night to Anna and a few other friends at a nearby pub. I was over it by next day, but I was completely unaware of what was happening. On Monday night, the doorbell rang at my parents' house. And my father's angry voice echoed, "Get out." Rushing down, I found David at the entrance. His mother was there too, standing behind him. Sarah. I need you to listen to me. David pleaded, pushing past my father. Why? What do you mean, why? We were doing fine when we were going out, right? Just listen to me. David started. Apparently, through a friend, word got around and everyone got to know the way he treated me. His coworkers, our mutual friends. When he went to work, he faced icy stares. He pressed for answers, and a friend said to him, "So you committed blatant marriage fraud." Come to think of it, one of David's coworkers was at our all-night venting session. David seemed to think that by earning my forgiveness, he could mend his relationships with all his coworkers. I never intended to deceive you. I was planning to secretly file our marriage registration later on. Come on, you didn't think I would find out? You're not that stupid, are you? I went to get some legal documents and found out immediately. Really? He just didn't know? I felt foolish for suspecting something more sinister. As I stood there dumbfounded, his mother barged in. "You knew and still stayed with David for a few days. Forgive him at once. Then I'll acknowledge you as my daughter-in-law." Seriously? I really don't care what you think anymore. Even if you beg me, I don't want to be your daughter-in-law. What did you say? Your son is a mama's boy, and your cooking is terrible. I'm sick of your bullying and your stupid sarcasm. What? I continued as his mother trembled. Your exact word was, "Have me bear his child and not tarnish the family records." Isn't that a serious violation of human rights? Didn't you even think that I wasn't just a tool but someone with feelings? Don't talk to my mom like that. Do you still not see what's happening? What? What you did was called marriage fraud. I didn't do anything wrong. You stole my precious time. Time is a valuable asset, you idiot. I almost grabbed David by the collar, but my father intervened. Sarah, that's enough. The neighbors are clapping. I realized we had caused a commotion at the entrance, and our neighbors were clapping, saying, "Go Sarah." Meanwhile, people who knew David and his mother were whispering rumors. I threatened the pale-faced David and his mother, "Don't ever show your faces here again. If I see you near my house, I'll call the police." Then, as an afterthought, I added, "David, I have recorded conversations of me being bullied by your mother. I'll be claiming compensation. Just expect a call from my lawyer." Smiling triumphantly, I said those last words. Afterward, David's situation remained dismal. He was ostracized and removed from the team projects, relegated to a position in the document managing department. Effectively, it was a notice of redundancy. My gossip-loving mother told me what happened to David's mother. Apparently, at the time of our confrontation at my parents' house, someone she knew was there. And they became known in the neighborhood as the fraudster mother and son. They lived a constrained life, always trying to hide when going out. All of this was the result of their own foolishness. I quite liked the way things ended for David and his mother. I'm Maggie, a 35-year-old nurse. My husband, Jason, is 40 and a corporate employee. Our daughter, Emily, is about to turn 4. Until recently, we were living happily as a family of 3, but then a series of events turned everything upside down. Jason and I met almost 10 years ago. We both left our hometowns to attend college and ended up working in the city. Being introduced by a friend, we hit it off because we were from the same town and soon started dating. Eventually, we began to think about marriage and, after many discussions, realized we both wanted to return to our hometown someday. So, we decided to start our married life back in our hometown. Jason's company had a branch in our hometown. When his transfer request was accepted, I quit my job at the hospital and we moved back home together. We started our new life in this house where we live now. Both of our workplaces and Jason's parents' house are within a 30-minute drive from here. And my parents' house is a bit farther but still reachable in under an hour. Fortunately, I quickly found a new employment. I was able to continue working as a nurse, living busy but fulfilling days. We struggled to have children after marriage and felt some pressure and anxiety from those around us. But our relationship remained calm and steady. Then, after 3 years, we were blessed with a child. When Emily was born, Jason cried tears of joy. Maggie, thank you so much. You've done so well. Our life is going to be lively now, no more loneliness. We had moved away from our college friends to start our life here, and Jason might have felt lonelier than me. The reason is that this place isn't exactly his hometown. He was actually born and raised in a neighboring state, and his parents moved here after he got into college. The town where his childhood home was is more than 3-hour drive from here. It's not a distance where you can casually meet up with old classmates. Moreover, Jason had to give up his hobby, soccer, as he couldn't find teammates here. I understood the stress he might have felt, including the loneliness, but I'm not sure if I was attentive enough. I might be making excuses, but I was handling most of the housework and working hard as a nurse, even during my pregnancy. As a result, I didn't have much spare time. We didn't even have much time to spend together as a couple. I talked with Jason about our future. That's when I realized that my well-intentioned efforts had backfired. I was trying to lessen his burden by doing all the housework, but he wanted to do it together. Jason is a social person. But if he had been turning down socializing outside of work hours because of housework, it would be hard for him to make friends. That's why I kept refusing his offer to help with chores, because I didn't want to trouble him. Thinking back, it's ridiculous to think of it as a trouble. I talked to my boss about getting exempt from night shifts for a while. It was to make sure we had time to spend and talk as a couple. I was ready to change jobs if necessary, but my request was accepted without much fuss. In our rural area, it's assumed that women take care of housework and childcare. So mothers with young children are not expected to work night shifts. I'm fed up with these old-fashioned ideas, but I try not to let it bother me. Jason was teased for being a modern dad just for taking Emily to her checkups and vaccinations, but we just ignore it. As Emily grew and could do more things day by day, we, as a couple, rejoiced together, and before we knew it, 4 years had passed. But lately, I've been worried. Jason's behavior has become strange, or rather, distant. When I talk to him, he either ignores me or just gives perfunctory responses. He seems less interested in Emily too. He's been taking her to his parents' house more often but has stopped playing with her outside near our home. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but it's been getting worse, and he's stopped doing any housework or childcare. Shutting himself in his room. He's started coming home late on weekdays and going out randomly on weekends. Emily has also stopped talking to Jason much. What should I do? This isn't good for my daughter. But my husband doesn't seem to be willing to talk about it. After much thought, I decided to reduce my working hours and focus more on housework and childcare. I thought maybe he was too exhausted to do anything. As my daughter grew, I increased my working hours, and now I'm even doing evening shifts. Of course, I consulted with my husband, but our time for conversation has decreased, and he might feel burdened. I need to return to the routine of coming home early, enjoying family meals together, and having quality time with the family, like we used to. I spoke up and managed to switch back to daytime shifts only. I've been trying hard, making meals from scratch instead of buying pre-made dishes, but there's been no change in my husband's behavior. He doesn't initiate conversation and responds unenthusiastically when I talk to him. He doesn't even try to look at me. When I ask if he's tired or if there's something bothering him, he just says, "Nothing in particular," so I've stopped talking more than necessary. Even though I know something needs to be done, I can't find a solution, and now my husband is about to take a long break from work. In his company, after a busy period, employees take turns taking about a week off to use up their vacation days. I really wanted to travel or do some leisure activities with my daughter, who has become more understanding. But I didn't want to add to my husband's stress, so I gave up on the idea. Instead, I made a suggestion to help him relieve stress. Do you have any plans for your upcoming time off? Nothing in particular. How about visiting your old classmates? Or you could go on a trip with your parents. Yeah, maybe I will. On the day, my husband left without saying anything. He returned home a week later, but I have no idea where he was or who he was with. Still, his face expression seemed a bit lighter, which relieved me. Since then, he's been going away overnight more frequently. He leaves on Friday night and doesn't come home until Monday, apparently going straight to work from wherever he is. I still don't know what he's doing or where. Maybe he's meeting old friends or has found a new hobby. We still don't talk much as a couple, but since he doesn't seem to be in a bad mood, I'm just watching the situation. After a while, I fell ill and went for a checkup at the hospital where I work. The blood test results weren't good, and I was advised to undergo further testing. They found a malignant tumor. I consider myself lucky that it was found early thanks to a routine check. It looks like it can be removed with endoscopic surgery. But still, I was incredibly downhearted. I told my husband about the discovery of my illness and the need for surgery and hospitalization. He just responded without looking up from his phone. I see. I was so sad that I lost my words. I managed the housework and prepared my belongings until the day before hospitalization. My husband took our daughter and went back to his parents' house. He said he would be going to work from there and wouldn't be back for a while. In fact, he brought up divorce yesterday. He said it's not just about removing the bad part with surgery, there's treatment afterward. It's not just the trouble, but the burden on me, our daughter, and my parents. It's too much, so let's just end this. Burden. His words pierced my heart, and I had no strength to argue. After being discharged, I called my in-laws, and they also pressured me to divorce. We'll take Emily, just pay child support. Please get the divorce over quickly. He's sending the divorce papers. Sign them as soon as they arrive. I was hoping to have my husband bring our daughter back, but they refused to send her back. I don't even know if my husband is there, he won't come to the phone. I was doing housework in a daze, but something felt off. Even for a house left empty, it was too messy. Had my husband returned? And then, I found the evidence. While cleaning my husband's room, I found women's loungewear. Just as I feared. I took out the brown envelope I had hidden in the storage and checked its contents with trembling hands. It was the report from the private investigator I hired when I first started suspecting something was off with my husband. I had received it a few days ago and knew the contents were bad, but I was too scared to look. The results were damning. Worse yet, he had been bringing his affair partner into our home, which was the worst part. Feeling disgusted and forgetting I had just had surgery, I thoroughly cleaned the entire house. Eventually, I returned to work. I was assigned to outpatient care, which is less physically demanding. Then, one day, a decisive incident occurred. My husband was involved in a traffic accident and brought to the hospital where I work. It was an accident during a date with his affair partner, who apparently came in the ambulance with him. I rushed into the treatment room. I'm Jason's wife. Is my husband here? Seeing me, the room buzzed with whispers. The hospital staff thought the two brought in were a married couple, not involved in an affair. Wait, your husband? Then who was the woman earlier? Oh, she's gone. She had just a scratch and went home, people murmured while attending to him. Okay, let's get you out of these clothes. Suddenly, my husband started yelling, "Don't look." It's okay. While being restrained by several nurses, his shirt and undershirt were removed. What? I couldn't help but gasp. There was a tattoo on my husband's chest. A heart pierced by an arrow, with a woman's name. I couldn't believe it. Leaving my husband, who was causing a commotion, I rushed out of the treatment room. I had confirmed he wasn't in life-threatening danger and didn't want to be embarrassed further. My husband was hospitalized for a broken clavicle and ribs. I got permission and went home to get his change of clothes. A few hours later, I entered his hospital room with his belongings, finding my husband in bed after treatment. My in-laws and daughter were also there. Mommy. Emily, have you been good?
Yeah.
Mommy, are you getting better? Yes, I'm getting better. My daughter's concern for my health gave me strength. I told my husband and in-laws that I had something to say and asked a colleague to look after Emily. I've decided to divorce Jason. Now. What's going on, in a time like this? It's okay, Mom. Better sooner than later. I'll take care of Emily. What? Don't be ridiculous. We'll take Emily. Then let me ask, do you know where Emily wants to go the most? What vegetables has she learned to eat well? What's her favorite character? You can't answer, can you? You haven't been spending time with Emily, have you? Just leaving everything to your parents, right? I handed the brown envelope to my father-in-law afterward. My in-laws, after seeing the contents, were silently pale. But they didn't lose their composure. They must have known about their son's affair. I will take custody of our daughter. I won't let you two be involved with her ever again. You can't just not let us see her, that's impossible. Jason has a tattoo of another woman's name and a heart mark on his chest. Is that the act of a suitable father? My in-laws, apparently unaware of the tattoo, were making a scene. I continued, unfazed. I mentioned the disarrayed house, the women's loungewear on the messy bed. It's absolutely unforgivable that he brought his affair partner to our home while his wife was hospitalized. My in-laws, by turning a blind eye to their son's affair and neglecting his daughter, were as guilty as he was. I declared my intent to fight for custody and demand child support, and to seek alimony from my husband and his affair partner. I cannot entrust my daughter to a father who abandons her for an affair. My mother-in-law tried to say something. Probably about how they've been properly taking care of my daughter. I ignored her and pressed on. If you want mediation or a court battle, go ahead. But remember, it might become public knowledge that Jason's affair is the reason. Soon after, the divorce was finalized, and I got custody of our daughter, so we moved. Turns out my ex-husband's affair was a double adultery, and he's also being sued for alimony by his partner's husband. In our small town, the rumors eventually spread, and my ex-husband is now in an awkward position at his company. But he can't quit his job because of the alimony and child support payments. Interestingly, my ex-husband didn't have savings, so his father extended his retirement and his mother started working part-time to help out. Since tomorrow is a day off, let's go out. Emily, where do you want to go? I want to see the elephants. Then let's go to the zoo and eat something delicious on the way back.
Yay!
My health has improved, and I'm living peacefully with my daughter.